We're reading Skinny Bones, and this is Chapter 8, A Face Full of Flakes. Usually, when I go to the Little League field for a game, I don't know who we're going to play until I get there. I just go to the game, lose, and go home. The way I look at it, losing is losing. Who cares who you lose to? A lot of kids don't feel that way, though. TJ Stoner is one of them. TJ always knows exactly which team he's going up against. Then a couple of days before the game, he goes around school announcing how badly the other team is going to get whipped. Nobody ever argues with him either, because they all know it's true. Anyway, that's why I wasn't surprised when TJ went through the halls, bragging about how Franklin's Sporting Goods was going to mop up the floor with Fran and Ethel's cleaning service. Fran and Ethel's cleaning service. That's the name of my team this year. Catchy, huh? When I first found out about it, I thought about quitting, but my dad said that Fran and Ethel had paid a lot of money to sponsor our team, and it wouldn't be fair if everyone quit just because it was a stupid name. So far, I've never had a team name that sounds as neat as Franklin's Sporting Goods. Last year, my team was called Preston's Pest Control. Our team banner had a roach being knocked out with a baseball bat. It was totally humiliating. Anyway, on Friday morning, right after class started, TJ raised his hand and made another public announcement. Tomorrow at 10:30 a.m., my Little League team is going to be playing Alex's team. So I was thinking some of you guys might want to come by the field and watch us play. My stomach turned over. Oh, geez, no. He was inviting the entire class. No way. My team hadn't won a game all season, and TJ's was in first place. It was going to be a slaughter. Quickly, I jumped up. Why? I called out. My teacher looked at me strangely. Why what, Alex? Why would anyone want to come to our game? Desperately, I looked around the room. Don't you people have lives of your own? It's just a stupid Little League game. TJ smiled broadly. Well, not exactly. There's something else you guys should probably know. I don't want to brag, but I'm going to be pitching tomorrow. And if I win the game, I'll set a Little League pitching record for most games won in a row. He paused so that his thrilling information could sink in. It'll put me in all the record books, he added. Mrs. Grayson's whole face lit up. Really, TJ? That's terrific. I jumped up again. Book schmucks! Record schmeckard! I hollered. Mrs. Grayson told me to be quiet, but TJ wouldn't quit. He kept talking about that stupid game all day long. Even after the bell rang and kids were leaving the room, he stood at the door issuing personal invitations. You're going to be there, right? He'd ask. You're not going to let me down, are you? I tried to duck past him, but he grabbed my shirt. Then he pulled me right up to his face and smirked. See you tomorrow, Alexandra, he said. I wrinkled my nose at his breath. Phew! Mackerel for lunch again? I asked. But TJ just laughed. We'll see how funny you are tomorrow when the whole class turns up to watch you lose, loser. Then he sort of rubbed his hands together and walked away. Man, was I ever in for it now. This was even worse than the pitching contest. If there's one thing worse than losing, it's losing in front of your whole entire class. I've never even played in front of a crowd before. With a team like mine, a lot of the parents don't even show up. In fact, so far there are only 2 people that have been at every single game we've played this year. Fran and Ethel. They always come to watch us play right after they get off from work. You can tell who they are because they usually wring out their mops while we warm up. It wasn't surprising that I couldn't eat any dinner that night, and I didn't sleep at all. Mostly I just lay in bed trying to think of a way to get out of playing. I must have gone through 100 plans before I finally came up with one that I thought might work. It was pretty extreme, but it was my only chance. The next morning, I made sure my parents were at the breakfast table. Then I dragged myself into the kitchen on my stomach and slowly pulled myself over to the table. Morning, I said weakly. My father looked down at me. Morning, Alex, he said back. Morning, said Mom. What kind of cereal do you want? Feebly, I raised my head. Cornflakes. I'll have a few cornflakes, please, I muttered. My mother got up from the table and stepped over to get to the refrigerator. Juice? She asked. I nodded. What was wrong with these people? Didn't they notice that I was lying on the floor? Mom bent down and put my bowl in front of me. You'd better hurry and eat, she said. You have to get ready for your game soon. Okay, fine. I didn't know what little game they were playing here, but I could play right along. Leaving the cereal on the floor, I pulled myself into my chair. I made a big deal of it, grunting and groaning all the way. I think I'd like to eat up here, I said, trying to catch my breath. Could someone please get me my cornflakes and juice? My parents glanced down at the bowl on the floor. You should have brought it up here with you, son, said Dad. Your mother and I are eating right now. For the next few seconds, I sat there tapping my fingers on the table. Then, even slower than before, I leaned down until my hands were touching the floor again. The chair flipped over on me as I dropped back down, but Mom and Dad still didn't react. This called for drastic action. Something so outrageous they couldn't ignore it. That's when I started eating right out of the bowl. Without a spoon, I mean. Like Fluffy. My mother looked down and dropped a napkin on my head. That did it. Hey, what kind of parents are you, anyway? I hollered. Your pathetic little son is lying on the floor eating like an animal, and all you can do is drop a napkin on his head? Don't you even want to know what happened to me? We already know, said my mother. You mean you already know that in the middle of the night, Fluffy jumped on my bed, and the big oaf went to sleep on my legs, and she cut off the circulation to my entire lower body, which is why my feet and legs are asleep, and I can't stand up. You already know all that? No, Alex, said Mom. We know that you're trying to get out of going to your game today. Brian's parents called this morning and said that most of your class will be there, so we figured you'd be pulling some kind of stunt to get to stay home. I rolled over. Oh. After that, I just lay there for a really long time. I just lay there, staring up at the ceiling. Finally, I rolled back on my stomach again and silently pulled myself back out of the kitchen. Sometimes when you're caught doing something stupid, it's less humiliating if you just ease out of it gracefully. When I got back to my room, I stood up and put on my uniform. My pants fell down again. This was going to be the worst day of my life.